The world seemed to pause when the Institute of Science and Technology issued a public statement. After months of rumors, quiet speculation, and harsh dismissals from critics, the Institute confirmed something that sent shockwaves through governments, laboratories, and corporate offices across the globe. Maxwell Chikumbutso's self-powered car was real. What once looked impossible was now officially recognized. For years, doubters mocked the very idea. A car that could create its own power, without plugging in, without fuel. It sounded like fantasy. It was brushed off as nothing more than science fiction. Yet now, with the official certification, what many people had already witnessed on dusty African roads was undeniable. A machine that broke the rules of physics as the world had understood them. For America, the news landed like an earthquake. Analysts who once branded Maxwell as a fraud scrambled to find cover. The largest energy companies, worth billions, suddenly watched their foundations tremble. Even Tesla, the symbol of innovation in electric vehicles, suddenly seemed outdated, because this was not just another electric car. This was a car that never needed recharging, a vehicle that made entire infrastructures obsolete. Gas stations, charging grids, even massive battery plants became irrelevant overnight. The critics were silenced. Those who had laughed the loudest were now speechless. A famous critic who had once publicly called Maxwell a con artist was left stunned on live television when asked if he had been wrong. The certification didn't just validate the car, it embarrassed an entire class of skeptics who had spent years attacking it. The Institute's official findings were detailed and precise. According to their report, the car used a revolutionary system that harvested energy endlessly. No charging ports, no fuel tanks, no exhaust pipes. A panel of top scientists, some of the most respected experts alive, confirmed it. This was no illusion, no parlor trick. It was a discovery capable of freeing the world from its dependence on oil forever. But while the world was digesting this revelation, something else was happening. Across Africa, the announcement was not only scientific, it was deeply emotional. For Africans, it was vindication. Maxwell Chikumbutso had not only proved the skeptics wrong, but he had placed Africa in the center of the most significant technological shift of the century. For the first time, the future of the world was being shaped not in Silicon Valley, not in Beijing, but in Africa's heart. But even as celebrations rang across the continent, something darker was already stirring elsewhere. In quiet boardrooms in Washington, London, and other power centers, urgent meetings began. This was not just a car. It was a direct threat to oil profits, to battery industries, to decades of carefully structured global control. And when trillions of dollars are at stake, history teaches us one thing: the powerful rarely surrender without a fight. Within hours of the certification, a shadow campaign was underway. Private emails circulated. Confidential calls were made. The mission was clear. If Maxwell's invention could not be bought, then it had to be destroyed. Anonymous articles began spreading online, questioning the credibility of the Institute. Old photographs of Maxwell were twisted into false stories of fraud. Overnight, an invisible war began, not fought with weapons, but with headlines, rumors, and doubt. The Institute of Science and Technology soon found itself under enormous pressure. Accusations of bribery, of foreign influence, of corruption were thrown at it. Some scientists received threats, some subtle and some blunt, but the researchers stood firm. "We do not certify politics," one senior scientist declared. "We certify science." In Africa, the attacks on Maxwell were viewed as desperation. Leaders across the continent rallied to his defense, calling the smear campaigns an insult not only to Maxwell, but to Africa itself. Ordinary citizens, long ignored, began to see themselves reflected in his fight. If Maxwell could withstand the world's pressure, so could they. But in the shadows, plans were being hatched. The prize was too big, the stakes too high. And for some, nothing was too extreme to protect their interests. Meanwhile, in Africa, the reception was totally different. To Africans, Maxwell was more than an inventor. He was a symbol of resilience, a hero who dared to dream beyond the limitations others had set for him. The news of the certification spread like wildfire, galvanizing communities and inspiring a new generation of innovators. Across the continent, school children drew pictures of Maxwell's car, dreaming of a future where Africa would lead the world. But the world of the powerful doesn't function on dreams. It operates on control, and maintaining that control often means eliminating those who threaten it. And so the story took a dramatic turn. When Maxwell was at the peak of his success, when the world was marveling at his achievement, a series of unfortunate events began to unfold. Rumors started swirling, whispers turned into shouts. Before anyone knew it, the narrative around Maxwell shifted. Instead of being celebrated, he was vilified. Instead of being admired, he was envied. Accusations rained down on him, each one more damaging than the last. Some said he had deceived everyone, that his car was nothing more than a mirage. Others said he had sold the blueprints of his invention to foreign powers, betraying his own continent. There was even talk of a curse on those who tried to diminish Africa's glory. How did it come to this? How could someone who had shown the world a glimpse of limitless possibilities become the target of relentless attacks? To understand this, we must look beyond the noise, beyond the chaos, and see the bigger picture. You see, Maxwell's invention was more than just a technological marvel. It challenged the very foundations of industries that had grown accustomed to controlling the world's energy needs. Oil companies, battery manufacturers, even established car makers, they all trembled at the thought of a world where Maxwell's invention became the norm. Their dominance, their very existence was threatened. So they did what they do best. They fought back. They unleashed a propaganda machine that churned out accusations, doubts, and fears. They pulled strings in places of power, hoping to bring down the man who had dared to challenge them. They sowed seeds of discord, hoping to turn nation against nation in a desperate attempt to keep Maxwell's invention from seeing the light of day. Maxwell, however, was not one to back down. Despite the personal cost, despite the attacks on his homeland, he held firm. He knew the truth. He knew the power of his invention, and he was determined to protect it. But how can one man stand against an entire industry backed by the world's most powerful nations? How can a dreamer from Africa hope to survive the onslaught of those who seek to crush him? The answer lies in the spirit of innovation, the spirit of pushing boundaries and challenging the status quo. It lies in the support of those who believe in Maxwell's vision and in the strength of Africa, a continent that has endured so much yet continues to rise. Maxwell's story is a testament to the human spirit, the spirit of ingenuity, resilience, and courage. It is a story that transcends borders, cultures, and even continents. It is a story that reminds us that no matter how dark things seem, hope always flickers. And sometimes that flicker is all it takes to illuminate the world.